Guys, I think we gotta throw a party. Cause I think I just found the perfect Godzilla toy.
What's up people, it's me KaiJS and welcome to the first figure review on the new channel. Today we'll be taking a look at the original Bandai Movie Monster Series Final Wars Godzilla 2004 standard vinyl figure. I picked this guy up from eBay for about 80 bucks since the other Final Wars figure that I have didn't scale too well with my other figures, and because I didn't want to buy the reissue. Now despite the figure coming out a long time ago, it came here in almost pristine condition, minus a few tiny paint chips, and even still had its tag. Is this Godzilla figure a worthy product to add to your collection? Let's find. Yes! It was $80, but it was worth every single penny. This may be because of my bias towards the 2004 design, but I think this figure is near perfect. I think my appeal towards the 2004 design comes from how it takes the iconic, timeless Heisei Godzilla design and adds just the right amount of flair from other Millennium Godzillas to make something recognizable, but even more ferocious. I'm just gushing at this point, but I really think Final Wars Goji is one of the best designs that G-Man has received. It's nice to see it almost perfectly translated into this figure. Before we get into all the details, let's take a good look at Godzilla's tag. As you can see, we've got a nice picture of Godzilla within a pink frame, with text telling us which Godzilla we're looking at. Opening the tag up, you'll get another black and white image of Godzilla as he lets out a roar. The back shows us a silhouette of Godzilla in front of a wall of fire, with text telling us that this is the standard version of the figure. If you're wondering what that means, there's actually a large version of this figure that I mentioned slightly earlier. When calling this a standard figure, it means that it's at a standard size for the figure line, which is somewhere around 6 inches, give or take. Something I've noticed about the older tags is that it feels less laminated and more like actual cardboard. I'm holding Godzilla's tag in a tag from a Baragon figure that came out more recently, and Baragon's tag feels more protected than Goji's. I guess that means you'll have to be more careful with the older tags, if you care about these kinds of things. Now don't get this figure mistaken with the 2023 remaster variant. These are two different figures with two different molds, and quite frankly, I think the original version, the one I have now, does it more justice. This figure is packed with details and texture all the way through. The insides of its mouth have texture, and you can see each individual tooth. Throughout the entire body, you can see the scaly texture make its way across most of Godzilla's body. Even the underside of Godzilla's tail has some texture, and surprisingly enough, the bottoms of his feet, they seriously didn't need to add texture and details on the bottom of Godzilla's feet, since nobody would pay much attention to that unless you're fucking weird. But the fact that they did shows how much attention and care that went into the molds back in the day. All of Godzilla's main 3 rows of dorsal plates will be present, with tiny outer rows also present. Of course, Godzilla's plates won't be as sharp or pointy as they were on the final design, but that's more of a safety concern, so I can forgive that. You just know a kaiju figure is a good figure when it just feels amazing to hold. As always, Bandai kills it with the details on this figure. No flaws, or at least none that I can think of. As expected, Godzilla doesn't have too much paint on him, mainly because this version of the character isn't the most colorful. Then again, that's okay because paint is present on all the areas where it should be, and the figure already looks really good the way it does. Taking a look at Godzilla's face, his eyes are painted black with orange for the irises. The black paint used for the eyes seems to have more of a shine than the other colors used on this figure, which I think is a cool touch. Godzilla's chompers will be a nice yellow color, and his tongue will be a vibrant red. Most of Godzilla's body will be a nice charcoal gray, with more yellow on his claws and toes. Taking a look at his dorsal plates, all of them will be painted white, starting from the neck all the way to the tip of the tail. Of course, they're not painted the same way as they were on the actual suit, but I like the way it looks on the figure better, since it gives us more contrast. See, if you want to make changes to a figure's design, at least make it look good. It doesn't seem like much, but it's so refreshing to see all of the dorsal plates painted the whole way through, especially given the current state of the movie Monster series, where they'll only paint the plates on the back and then suddenly give up when they get to the tail. Heck, even the 2023 reissue of this figure suffers from the lack of paint on it still, which is another reason why I choose this over the reissue, besides the 2023 version's ugly face. Like, would it really be that hard to paint all of the spikes on the tail? They don't even have to be too precise either. The way they did it on this figure should be serviceable enough to apply to the rest of their figures. Overall, a serviceable paint job on this figure. Nothing phenomenal, but it does its job well. Oh, and before we move on to articulation, does anybody know how to prevent paint chipping on Godzilla's toes? The claws never actually touch the surface of my desk, but somehow the tips still lose a teeny tiny bit of paint. Anybody know a good way to prevent this? There's not too much to be said about articulation. It's almost exactly what you'd expect from a figure like this. The head can do a full 360, and both of Godzilla's arms move back and forth, albeit at points that I don't really understand. Genuine question, but why is the arm articulation on a good handful of these Godzilla Bandai vinyls near the forearms and not the shoulders? Look at the way this Godzilla's arms move compared to this Playmates Evolved Godzilla figure that I have. The joints on the Playmates one are at least placed near the shoulders, allowing for more opposability. I guess this Godzilla is more of a type to give hugs rather than answering math questions in front of the class. It leaves a bit to be desired, but some arm articulation is better than none. Both legs have the opportunity to do a 360, but you'll have to force through the arms, which I wouldn't recommend since it can probably damage the figure. This time around, there's no tail articulation, as it's forced in place by a glue seal. This leaves us with 5 points of articulation in total, a sufficient amount for a figure like this, and all in the right areas too. In terms of paint, details, and articulation, Godzilla 2004 hits all the right boxes to being an amazing figure, but how well does he scale next to our other toys? Here's how Godzilla looks next to a Playmate Shimo and a Playmate's Battle Roar Skarking. Skarking stands a bit taller than Godzilla and is taller than Shimo when she's on all fours. If we stand her up though, she'll be taller than Godzilla. Next to two of his buddies, here's Godzilla next to Final Wars Anguirus and Rodan, both of which are reissues from the movie Monster series. Godzilla stands ever so slightly taller than Rodan. Here's Godzilla next to a Bandai Movie Monster Series Jet Jaguar reissue from 2021 and a Bandai Movie Monster Series GVK Kong, also from 2021. Godzilla is only slightly shorter than Kong, but it seems like Jet Jaguar has the height advantage here. Now here's Godzilla standing alongside a Bandai King Ghidorah 2001 and a Trendmasters toy of the real Godzilla. Godzilla 2004 is slightly taller than the real Godzilla and a wee bit smaller than Ghidorah if you choose to count the wings. For anyone who may have them, here's Godzilla next to two Super 7 figures, the vintage color variants of Rodan and Gigan, the Fire Chicken and the Space Chicken. As you can see, Godzilla towers over both of them. So, what do I think about this Bandai Godzilla 2004 figure? The figure itself is loaded with good details and textures, even in areas you wouldn't expect, and the sculpt itself looks almost exactly like what it's trying to portray, expected for the movie Monster series. Any changes made to the figure are mainly there for safety purposes. Everything is painted where it needs to be, and we get a good amount of articulation for this figure. It's a very simple figure, but it does its job excellently. I honestly don't understand why they didn't just reuse this mold for the reissue, because this was already perfectly fine the way it was. Then again, the reissue has its own benefits, like its more aggressive hands, but the benefits of that figure aren't enough to outweigh everything amazing that this figure has to offer. If you got a kid who's into Godzilla and isn't worried about paint or quality, then the reissue should be just fine, if you really want to give them a Bandai vinyl toy. On the other hand, if you care about how your figures are presented like I am, then I say, definitely try to get your hands on the original standard version of the Bandai Movie Monster Series Final Wars Godzilla 2004 figure, because this, my friends, is what I like to call a 10 out of 10 figure, a full 5 stars. I hope this isn't going to be the only figure that has a perfect final verdict on the channel. This was seriously worth every single penny. This is just a peek into the potential that Bandai has when making their kaiju figures, and unfortunately we don't always get to see that nowadays. If you care about the quality of your figures, just remember, out with the new and in with the old. I guess this is what they mean when they say, you can't beat the classics. So, those were my thoughts on the original Bandai Movie Monster Series Final Wars Godzilla 2004 standard vinyl figure. It's a simple figure, but it shows that you don't need a whole lot to make something great, and it shows how much love and care was put into these Bandai toys way back in the day. Of course, some of you may agree with what I have to say about all this, and some of you may have a different opinion from mine. I encourage you to share your thoughts and experiences in the comments. I read them, and I try to respond to them as much as I can. That's the end of this video. Thanks for sticking around. If you enjoyed it, then be sure to hit the like button, not only for YouTube's algorithm, but to let me know that I'm posting good content for you guys. If you know a Godzilla fan who's interested in these kinds of things, then maybe even consider sharing the video with them. Also, if it's your first time here, now would be a good time to check out some of my other content. Who knows, maybe if you like what you see enough, you can subscribe. It would really mean a lot and it would seriously help out. If you hit the bell, you'll also be notified when I upload more reviews just like this. For the next figure review, we'll be shifting from Bandai to Playmates as I review the Scar King figure that I picked up recently. I'm also on more social media platforms like Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, so the links to those will be in the description as well. I think that about covers it, so thanks for watching, and I'll catch you later, G-fans. Stomp on!